Hi, I'm Marna, and welcome to part 3 on developing into being a conscious observer of your thoughts and yourself. I did not expect this to turn into a 3-part series, but hey, let's see. Part 1 should be above my head right now. Let's give it a few seconds, and then part 2 should show up. So, and then I'll put together a little playlist and put that at the end of this. So we're in part 3 now. We are getting out of our heads. Yes, you're going out of your mind and you're going to love it. This is good for you. The observer that we've been talking about is what is watching your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings. It is what observes the way your body interacts with your emotional and mental self. But to be able to observe all this, excuse me, it has to exist outside of what it is observing. You cannot observe something from inside of it. So, what sort of consciousness does exist beyond the mind? And how can we access it? Now, if you've done parts 1 and 2, you've come a nice distance along your consciousness path. And you're probably beginning to sense that there are other forms of consciousness within yourself that goes beyond our thoughts, goes beyond our conscious thinking. We get these little glimpses as we go through life, a sense of expansion, of becoming hyper aware. It's a different quality to thinking. However, it really is tempting to go back into that ego self that just wants to analyze this and figure out what it is. So how do we get past the mind? How do we transcend the ego self into this other consciousness? First of all, it's a matter of your identity. I believe it was Descartes who said, "I think, therefore I am." Are you? Are you thinking? Do you cease to exist when you cease to think? If you're in a coma, say a medically induced coma, and your brain is shut down, do you cease to exist? Okay, so now the question becomes, who is doing the thinking? Who is the mind? You have to ask yourself, who am I? Not the vessel, not the ego, not the monkey brain. Who am I at my core? When you realize that you're identifying with something that is not the core of who you are, then you get this tremendous sense of expansion. You begin to tap into the awareness that all is one. So again, who is thinking? Who is doing the thinking? How can your mind observe itself from within? As neuroscience has been developing, there's increasing evidence that our brains are not simply reacting to outer stimuli, but are creating forms and patterns that we see, selecting them from a spectrum of vibration. So, how does the brain evoke the world, which is simultaneously the world in which it exists? Does the brain evoke the brain? And you can thank Alan Watts for that little mind bender. Now, you may have noticed that so far, I've been trying to stimulate your mind. I've been citing scientific research. I've been quoting philosophers. I've been giving you questions to think about. And this has been intentional. Part of it is to demonstrate how the mind approaches these topics. And also to show you that the mind is a tool that you can use to move beyond it. I know it seems kind of paradoxical, doesn't it? So, if the mind is a tool for going beyond itself, by forcing it to consider things that are not immediately logical and don't have an answer, What's right? What is doing thinking? What is asking these questions? What is pondering these questions? It's kind of like dealing with the Buddhists and the use of koans. Those are questions which are designed to show you what is beyond your mind. The most famous one being, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Or you could ask yourself, when you can do nothing, what can you do? The world is a vast and wide space. As the Zen master Unman once asked his students, the world is so expansive. Why do you put on your robes at the sound of a bell? Meaning, there is so much out there. Why do you confine yourself to a routine? So, we've been talking about the conscious observer and how to cultivate the conscious observer. But, in some ways, the observer is still an identity. Even the fact that it has a name says that it has an identity. So how does consciousness manifest itself? Once you start beginning to sense a part of you that lays beyond the mind, you can begin to cultivate it. What you can't do is grasp at it and try to recreate the feelings that come with it, because that's pulling you back down into the ego self, and that's counterproductive. It really is like tending a garden. You have to use love and awareness to provide the conditions for this to grow within you. And a lot of spiritual practitioners refer to this as the heart center. And, it's as good a way of referring to it as any, because this is something that ideally should come from a place of love. Love flows naturally through the physical, the emotion, and the mental. And love accepts what is without judgment, so that you can become the unaccepting. So that you can step away from being unaccepting and controlling on the outside. You need to process the pattern that has to be worked through and accept that non-acceptance is no longer the goal. I know, it sounds like I'm talking in circles. There are a few simple things that you can do to go ahead and start cultivating this heart center, so that your identity as a conscious observer can grow. Take lots of time in nature. It harmonizes us. It gives us a chance to open up the heart center without judgment. Practice meditation rituals. And remember, you can always go back to just focusing on your breathing and observing your breathing. That in and of itself is a meditation. Work on your awareness of your five senses. And this is, the five senses are the tool which your heart center is using to experience the world. And you can do this at any time. You can just sit there and simply feel what your fingerprints feel like when they rub against each other. It really is that minute of an experience. And then this great secret to truly cracking your heart center open and moving into a sense of awareness. Find your joy, your passion, your bliss. What makes your soul sing when you do it? Because those moments are the expression of our creative, childlike energies, the sense of wonder. The things allow us to see the world for the truly magical place that it is. And when we can move into seeing from that perspective without judgment, then we truly are the embodiment of the conscious observer. So I hope that this series has helped you with at least understanding what it means to be a conscious observer. And I know that it has been some really confusing concepts. Feel free to go through and watch these videos multiple times. And, if you really, really want extra help and direction for going forward with this, send me an email. My contact information is available on my webpage, marnarenee.com. Drop me a line. I would love to hear from you. Or just, comment down below. Let me know that you're, getting this. I'm not just, speaking into the void. Okay? I'm Marna, and thank you so much for joining me.